All right, how are we starting this beast? Yeah. Good.
What's that, Chris?
That's good. Give us a slurp to start it off. Well, cheers, brother. Thanks for hopping on.
It's happening in the flesh too, buddy.
Literally happening in the flesh right here. Welcome back to Okayest Cook Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whonsetler. I'm here in the kitchen. Andy's here in the kitchen. And we got something unique going on in front of me, at least. We're wrapping up hunting season. Well, we're in the middle of hunting season. I wouldn't say we're wrapping anything up.
I'd speak for yourself, brother. I got several sits left. I'm not done yet.
My freezer's doing pretty good at the moment. I'm feeling really happy. So my whitetail season might be wrapping up, and that's what I'm going to be working on here. I have got a quarter of the buck I shot a couple weeks ago. It's been aging in my garage refrigerator, and I'm going to break it down for you guys. And Andy, I'm hoping, is going to call out some of the cuts.
Yep.
Because this guy has not memorized the names of any of these muscle groups. I know how to cook them, but I do not know what they're called. And in my mind, I would say the only reason you would need to know what they are called is if you wanted to grab one of these cuts at the butcher shop. But you're going to buy it, it's not going to be whitetail, you're not going to be breaking it down yourself. So like, how do I get this cut from somebody else? That's the only reason you need to know what it's called. You do need to know
cool
how
about
to cook.
Yeah, like this is like the coolest part about whitetail, in my opinion, is that like those of our listeners who are strictly like beef eaters, or like they don't get maybe they don't have access to whitetail, they don't hunt, that sort of thing, but they eat a lot of beef. These are like what's cool about what we're going to watch today is that these are the same muscle groups and the same cuts on a cow that you'll see on a deer too. So when we start pulling these out, you'll start hearing names and you're like, hey, I've seen that in the butcher shop, and that's going to be true today too. You'll see that they might look a little different, maybe a little smaller, a little less marbling, if you will.
Definitely a little smaller.
But the groups themselves are the same.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I am going to start trimming up some of this fat, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I've already started just a little bit, and I'm going to start trimming this up. While I'm trimming some of this fat up, I think I'm going to send Andy on a notable meal quest here to talk about a notable meal he's had recently.
Well, and this one's going to be a little fun because I'm legitimately eating it right now, which I think this is the first time we've done that on the podcast, where the notable meal is actually happening in the moment. But due to some recording situations, I don't know.
Yeah, has it happened before?
Yeah, we've had some sushi. We had the deer sushi we ate on air before. But this is one that this is actually the second time we've made this, because the first time I did it, it was a hit here at the Heiser household. As somebody know, my wife
tell us what it
is Venezuelan, and so she is very big on a lot of the South American cuisine of stuff, but this is more of a Thai cuisine. So this is one that she actually has never really experienced. And for those of you who are frequent flyers of Thai restaurants, red curry is something that you'll always see on the menu. But it's one of those things where most people, when they first start out with Thai food, go with the typical, chicken pad Thai, the drunken noodles, those types of things. But red curry is one that I found that is just, it's phenomenal. It's like it warms your bones. It's delicious. I don't know how to explain it other than it's just fully like lots of flavor.
Dude, if I'm not mistaken, our very first meeting, you took me to a Thai place, right?
Yes, I believe that's true. It sounds very Andy Heiser to take even to a Thai. It's very Andy Heiser. So yes, that probably.
Yeah, well, tell us like what's in it. Like, how'd you make it? What's going on?
So this one's actually even more special because the protein that I have in this one is actually goose and duck, of which both of them came from a hunt that I did with Chris.
Hey, so
this is a great example. Like what Chris is working on right now is meat for the freezer. This is goose and duck from last season, so that's what's so cool about getting your own meat and prepping it and freezing it, is that it can last for a really long time.
It does.
When I pull these two pieces out, man, they look like the day that we put them in the bag. So
yes,
phenomenal.
We'll talk about that here in a sec. Yes.
Yeah. So my notable meal is this red curry, It's got eggplant. It's got little bits of pineapple, some cherry tomatoes built into it. But man, oh man, it is so good. And like I'm a big fan of just dipping the rice in it. And it's become a fan favorite here at our house. So it is one that now on my upcoming trip to Indiana, there's a lot of pressure for me to go on a duck and goose hunt to try to replenish the
more
meat that I've got here. So no pressure, Chris.
No pressure. We'll make it happen. I love curry, but I've never attempted to make it myself. Yeah, I think adding that twist, that the wild twist of duck and goose would be phenomenal because it's a unique meat if you've never had a wild duck. Definitely wild goose, but I love curry. I think is a good intro to it because it could mask some of those off flavors if you do happen to not cook it properly.
And I'm not gonna lie, I did a little bit of cheat code. This is a Hank Shaw recipe. This is actually a meat eater recipe from the Meat Eater book, page 135 of the Meat Eater. I don't actually have it on the counter anymore because I didn't cook it right now. But it's the Meat Eater. It's their latest.
The tan one with the antler.
The tan one with the antlers on the front.
Gotcha.
We'll link it at some point, but it is page 135. Oh my gosh, could not rave about it more. Phenomenal.
Yes.
So it's one of those two, especially where I live now here in Texas. We don't have a lot of Thai restaurants nearby where I'm at. So this is like one of those things where I was like, heck, we might as well give it a shot and try it. So here we are. Now we officially made our own version of it, and I'm not gonna lie, it does not disappoint.
I love it, dude. I'm gonna have to cook that real fast. Yeah, as soon as I get my own duck and goose going on here. So, I'm still cranking away here, trimming up some of this. Really, on a whitetail, anything white you see here, you don't want that in your meat. And we'll talk about that later on. Dude, real quick, I want to talk about a notable drink that I've discovered. This is my new all-time favorite bevy. Not a sponsor, but we would love to chat. Liquid Death. Liquid Death came out with a Deathberry Inferno. Dude, this is strawberry habanero, and it is ticking all the boxes right now. Just in the spice. If you guys know me,
you are a big fan of the hot take. So I'm not shocked that you like that.
Yeah,
but I'm
give me some tingles, and I love it.
But so that's one of those. I mean, maybe I'll have to try one if I see one.
I'll give you one.
In the
You'll like it.
store, but I don't know if I'm ready to commit to a whole 12 pack of them.
Yeah, dude. Right now, I think it's Walmart only. So like, you legit have to buy it online at Walmart.com, which not a huge fan of the store, but I am now.
Hey.
But from a meal standpoint, while we're talking about butchering, I, for the first time, remembered to actually do some Frenched backstraps when I was butchering this guy at my parents' property in their barn. So took a little hacksaw and like legit kept the backstrap attached to the ribs. You're definitely going to want a guy like this to do something like that. Just quick, clean, easy cuts. Get a food grade saw. It's much better than any of those reciprocating blades that are going to leave paint and stuff on your bone. So try and get a food grade blade. But super fun, dude. It looked awesome. I'm gonna post a little photo right here.
Please go to if you haven't gone to our Instagram account to see these photos. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, check them out.
Like it was one of those like. Every now and then, Chris has a couple of dishes he does, and I'm like, golly, I wish I could reach through.
Every now and again, we make some good
stuff and pull some stuff out that but these looked phenomenal. It looked awesome.
Yes, it's flavor wise, I would not say it's worth doing, but if you're gonna impress somebody with just the way it looks, 100%. Keep those rib bones on your backstrap. It tickled a little primordial itch I didn't know I had, just like gnawing on that bone, looking for that collagen. I'm assuming like your body craves what you need.
Collagen numbers up, bro.
Yes. Your body craves what you need. So I'm thinking like maybe I need to up my collagen intake, and that did it. So the French backstrap, 100%, I think is my notable meal. Will I do it again? I would say so. Again, it's not worth it for the flavors alone, but for the wow factor, 100%. It's cool.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it looked phenomenal. It was one of those things where like it's hard to remember to do while you're.
It is,
butchering.
Well, luckily with this buck, I was in a spot where I wasn't super pressed on time. Again, I was doing it in a comfortable environment, my dad's barn, so we were out of the weather. It was chilly enough, so we could really take our time. And I just was like, hey, let's do something I've been meaning to do but I haven't yet. So it worked.
Awesome.
I think it was cool. So I think I'm at a spot here where we can literally dive into this quarter. And so again, right off the bat, I'm trimming off all this fat. It was a fatty buck. It was early in the rut, like he hadn't had time to run around and work off all this fat. Normally when you shoot bucks, they're not going to be this fatty. But I'll say a lot of the does I take are. So again, with whitetails, if it's white, take it off. We're going to talk about some of the exceptions to that rule down towards the shanks, but good rule of thumb, especially if you're just starting out, take off all the white and you're good to go.
So I'm not sure if you said this, Chris, but so the piece that we're looking at right here, what part of the deer are we looking at?
This is the rear hind quarter.
Okay.
Yep, so it's the deer's back leg.
Yeah. Looks like the back right leg, if I'm not mistaken.
It probably is, yeah. It looks right to me. I think you were correct. So Andy, I'm going to ask you to play dumb here. So as I'm breaking this stuff down, I know you've got the cuts and all that. So I'd love if you could call out some of the cuts, but like put on your beginner's hat and call out some questions that you think some average people who have never butchered their own animal might be asking themselselves.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to start things out with, like, this is a great, like, from where we're looking at now to where you'll all see here shortly, when we get these pieces of meat out, when we go to the butcher shop, we're oftentimes just looking at these giant chunks of meat, right? And it becomes really foreign as to, like, where those pieces of meat actually are located on the animal. And I think a lot of that does, in fact, matter when you're talking about what you're going to do with that meat. And you think about what the purpose of that muscle is to do. Right now you're kind of cutting up the rear leg, which, if you think about an animal that constantly moves all the time, this is some tough meat, right, Chris? I mean, this is like...
Generally speaking, I would agree. Yep.
Yeah, so this is the tougher meat. However, as Chris will show here, there's actually some tender pieces inside of this too. So as he's starting to kind of pull apart this meat, like here, you'll start seeing, like, he's using his hands a lot of times. So
absolutely,
give us a little bit of a background. I mean, I know the background here, so try to play a little dumb here.
Please,
Like, for those of you who might be watching Chris, do this and like, wow, that seems to cut apart a lot easier than like when I did it right when I took the animal from the field. This has been hanging for a couple weeks, correct, Chris?
Yeah, it is currently the 23rd, and I shot this buck, I want to say on the 6th. How many weeks is that? It's been over 2 weeks. It's been hanging. So yeah, 100%. It's cold. It is very cold. It's not quite. I mean, inside, like down by this this interior bone, this femur, it's almost rock solid. Yeah, ice. It's a little squishy. So you'll hear it kind of creaking and groaning. So it is very cold, which makes it infinitely easier to work with.
I would 100% agree. So if anybody's ever try to pull this thing apart and be like, wow, I've never been able to do that. That's because like temperature matters. It does. If you get a chance to butcher a deer and it's negative degrees outside, you'll find that might be easier than if you do it earlier in the season when it's still.
Well, I mean, just having a warm deer, so like trying to do this the day of
is harder.
You're battling rigor, so that's going to be tough. So aging it in the fridge, all that rigor is going to be gone. All the muscles are going to be loose and flexible. B, again, it's cold, so it's going to be a little bit more firm to work with. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing this the day you get the deer, but if the deer can work through rigor on the bone, like everything is just going to be better. So when possible, I know it's not always possible for everyone to do this, the long way, but having that garage fridge really does help, like just extend the length of time you have versus trying to get it all done that exact same day. I feel like that's probably the main reason a lot of people don't attempt home butchery, because they just don't have the time. Got to get back to work. You got to do this. You got to do that. You think you have to do it all at the same time. But having that luxury of the garage fridge where they can hang for I probably wouldn't go more than 3 weeks. Just really watch it. Make sure it doesn't have anything funky growing on it. We're going to have a little discoloration you'll see here and there just from meat that's touching the oxygen. So that's not necessarily a good thing, but we'll trim some of that off.
Yeah, but does that make the meat bad when it touches the oxygen, Chris?
That's outside my pay grade here. I know it is going to give some off flavors, I would say. Is it going to make you sick? No, unless there's something growing on it, which you do have to watch for that. So make sure it's got some good airflow. Make sure it's not touching a whole lot in your fridge. Look up some videos on aging meat. I'm not the expert here. I just do what I do. As long as nothing's growing on it, it's good to go.
Yeah, what's super cool too, as you'll see Chris do here in a little bit, those pieces that have touched air or have touched, and a lot of us don't have the ability to have a stand-up cooler. Like I'd love that's on my to-do list. Is I've got some great deep freezes, but I do not have a stand-up cooler where I can hang the legs like Chris does. So oftentimes I have to actually use a cooler. In which case, it's harder to keep the meat from touching the water. And then when meat touches water, you'll see it changes the color. But what's super cool about this is that you'll see him. You'll get a chance to see this too. He'll cut a little piece of this off, and you don't have to go far into the meat, and you'll see that it's back to that bright red, that beautiful color of meat of what you're used to seeing at a standard butcher shop. So when in doubt, if it's one of those things, I think you've said this before, Chris. Like if it looks silly, if it looks funny, if it looks like it's not appetizing to you while you're cutting it up, maybe go ahead and just get rid of it. That's just a good sign to go ahead.
Exactly. Yep. And I realized we didn't really talk about tools right off the bat, and nice. we kind of did with the fridge. I'm going to put the refrigerator in one of those. Like, hey, if you have it, that's awesome, but you don't need it. Tools you do need, 100%, a good razor sharp knife. I've got a couple here. So I've got my razor sharp Benchmade, and then I've got an almost equally sharp outdoor edge knife. And so this knife, it's going to hold a sharp edge a lot longer, just better steel in general. This, I like to have a knife that I love, but I don't necessarily care about. Right. Because when we get inside here to the bones, like I'm going to be digging, we're going to be rubbing up against those bones, and that's really bad for knives. So I've got a set of outdoor edge knives. Again, they're phenomenal. I love them, but I don't care if this gets wrecked, because it's a little bit cheaper than the Benchmade. It's cheaper.
You can resharpen it. It'll be okay.
Yes.
I'm the same way.
I'm not so scared to resharpen this one by myself, but the Benchmade, I might send that out with their Life Sharp guarantee.
Right.
That comes with the knife.
I carry 3 knives in my setup too. I have the same setup that Chris has. I've got a really nice knife. I use actually the Bearded Butcher has a similar fillet knife that they have, a boning knife that I use as my keep sharp, keep nice knife. And then I use an outdoor edge as well. Orange handled, beautiful knife, but it is one that I'm okay with dragging across a bone or cutting through tendon and fully dolling up and then sharpening myself. And then I also have another outdoor edge knife that's a little bit thicker of a blade. The blade itself is in fact thicker, a little bit more of a snub nose blade. I use it a lot for popping out joints, as we'll get to here.
Yes, that's what we'll do here in a sec.
Yeah.
Went to Andy the other day. We were talking about this little nasty bit I'm pulling out right now.
Yeah.
So this is another reason you have kind of your secondary or tertiary knife laying around.
Yeah. So what Chris is pulling out here right now is actually inside of the center of that hind quarter there. There is a nasty little guy. It's a lymph node, technically, that is, or gland, as you'll hear people talk about, that sits inside of that pit. And if you were to draw your knife through that guy and then touch a bunch of meat with it, you'll find that stanky flavor that comes from hormones and everything else that lives inside of a lymph node can really taint the flavor of the meat. So it's one of those he's taking his time to be real cautious to cut out and get rid of and remove in his trash bowl there. But it is one that also I'm a big fan of just wiping off the knife or maybe even cleaning the knife after you get that thing out.
You will not mistake this for anything edible. It is
again, I said it earlier, like if it looks nasty and you don't want to eat it, if you don't want to eat it raw, I promise you don't want to eat it cooked. So taking that out, cleaning off that knife real good is the right move there. And I will say, I want to take a moment. So I noticed, Chris, you got 2 bowls there. What's that about?
I do have 2 bowls, yes. Back to equipment. We need to finish our equipment talk. These are new to me. Dude, I just got a set of these Yeti bowls, vacuum sealed, double insulated, whatever. Affiliate link below, pick one up. But I've got one for my trash, and I've got this one that's been sitting in the fridge. So it's just bone chilly cold. I like to chuck all my trash into this, and I'm gonna chuck all my grind into this bowl. And that chilly insulated bowl is just going to hold that chill a lot longer. So I'm more comfortable leaving the meat just sitting here on the shelf versus running back and forth. I'm not going to worry about bagging it up immediately and putting it back in the fridge.
Yeah.
These whole muscle groups, like I said, this is just ice cold. So this is going to sit pretty well here on the counter for just a little bit here. So I'm not too worried about these larger cuts. They're not going to warm up near as fast. But that's what my bowls are for.
That's nice. That's awesome. And again, it's one of those things that's a new nice to have for Chris. all the standard bowls work. I tend to do similarly, but I'll cut the bowl, like once I get the bowl relatively full, I'll immediately go ahead and put that into a bag, get it flattened down, get it frozen for my grind pile later on. But that's the next step up in the improving your equipment game, is to have bowls like that you can chill. But it's very cool. Well, right on. So Chris, I noticed you took that giant chunk off there. Let's talk.
Yes, we got the first cut off. Yeah. First 2 cuts. We got 2 separate little bits here.
Right on.
Try and break these guys apart.
It looks to me like that is kind of a couple different pieces. It's just a giant steak piece, usually known as the outside round or the bottom round of a deer roast. That giant chunk? Like, what are your plans for that?
Ooh, let me get this separated here, and I'll dive in. So, yes, this big chunk here. What'd you say it's called?
So that's called the outside round, or the bottom round.
Bottom round, yeah. I think that's what I would.
Same.
Label this guy. Bottom round. I can't do 2 things at once, so bear with me here. So there's the little guy. Okay. Bottom round, yes. This, large, flat piece of awesomeness here is, to me, that's a steak, or that's going to be jerky. That's going to be phenomenal. Yeah, if you could dice it up like this, you can butterfly it, make them a little bit bigger. I like to just cook it whole. I'll throw this thing on my smoker and just whole cuts. You're going to be able to cook it longer. It's going to stay on that smoke a lot longer. It's going to absorb more of that flavor a lot easier. So to me, I like to keep big old whole muscle groups. And that's what that guy is. Yeah, that's steak to me.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's typically how I do it. Or like what I did with my first deer this year, that all of the rears ended up being grind. So it makes phenomenal grind. It makes phenomenal steak. It also is typically where jerky comes from. So if awesome, you've ever had deer jerky, that's typically a good chunk that is used for that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and this other cut that I ripped off the top of that is the eye of round. This is the only one I know. And
yes.
This, Andy, what are you doing with your eyes?
So the eye round, I think I do it the same way that you do. It's a great steak. It's one of those. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it might be backstrap, but if you watch the intro to this show, I'm pretty positive that is actually an eye round that Chris is actually cutting up and taking the piece up. I could be wrong.
That is a great question. I need to look.
I'm pretty positive it's actually the eye of round.
My memory is
go
not
back
that
and
good.
Look at it. We can place bets on it, but I'm pretty positive that was an eye round that he did on the smoker and finished on his stovetop right there. You can see in the background, and then that.
Sir. Yeah. Next little cut. Got this weird little triangle deal. What's going on here?
Yeah. So that guy is one of those. This is a great example of a piece that people have probably heard of. But and it looks way bigger on a cow. This is your tri-tip. It's tri-tip. I don't know why it's called a tri-tip, but it's shaped like a triangle.
I don't know why that's called a tri-tip either.
But it is another piece that again I think can be cut up into. I mean, I think on from a cow standpoint, it can make some phenomenal tacos. It's a great cut for things like that. On a deer, for me, it's typically thrown into the grind pile, but.
I'm throwing that in the grind personally too. Yep. Yeah. It's all grind. No. Yeah, I'm like you. Like our house eats a lot of ground meat, and so my wife is not a big just steak on a plate gal. If I put this on the table, she's not really going to dive into that like me. So cuts like that are 100% mine, and this bowl is for the family. I got little kids as well, so they don't necessarily love the steaks. So that's all going to go in the grind pile for this household at this point in time.
Yeah. No, we're a huge on grind here as well. Both my wife and I eat it. In fact, we actually did a little auditing on how much meat we actually need for the year, and as we'll get to with Chris's yield on this specific animal here. You'll be maybe still surprised at how much edible meat comes off of an animal. So in our household, we need at least 3, if not 4 deer a year to be able to get us through. But we almost exclusively eat venison throughout the week.
That's phenomenal. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this side's a little bit harder. It's more frozen than I'm used to over here. So I'm gonna go through and you mentioned this earlier, Andy. The bearded butchers have a phenomenal phenomenal video on breaking this stuff down, but they go so fast.
So fast.
So I'm trying to bring a little realism back to this. While technically I am a bearded butcher, but we are not at their level.
Bearded butcher. So, no, that's the thing. And I think this comes back to like, how many times a year does Chris do this versus some of the other butchers? So like when you see stuff on YouTube, guys, like those guys are phenomenal, great at what they do. I mean, I myself reference their videos every single time.
Almost every season. Yep.
Butcher a deer. Almost every season.
Because they're doing hundreds, and I'm doing maybe three.
Right, maybe three on a great year. We're doing 3 to 4 of these things. Right?
On a great year,
So take your time with this. Like, don't try to match what someone who does this for a living does this as, because 100%. It is. While like there are some strategic cuts that are definitely made, and they're working with some really nice equipment and a stand-up freezer, big things. Chris has got an awesome cutting board. He's got a great setup there at the house, but it's still at his house. So, so give yourself some grace there while you're going through this. Because the processing,
trying very hard to not cut myself. So
right.
If I was trying to match the bearded butchers, I'd be all bandaged up, and this would be a very different movie. So.
Well, actually, I heard this, Chris. You'll probably like this. This is actually from Olivia. I can't remember her last name. The girl that's she's on Instagram is a chef, but she talked about this about how you speed up your knife skills.
Yeah, she's the one that got us into stainless steel, right?
Yes, correct. Yes, but she was talking about you just gotta own the fact that you're gonna get cut. And that's one thing when you're prepping a bunch of vegetables. I love that idea,
but it's true.
but when you're doing this, so if you're not ready to do that, then just slow down is the next thing, which is what we're doing here. Just slowing down to make sure we get the cuts done. And again, one of the things I'll take a note here, Chris is dissecting this. But Chris, do you have to do it this way, or can you just chunk this thing out and just start cutting it up for ground if you're planning?
It all depends on usage, right? Yeah, we've been talking a lot about how we use each cut, and Andy and I feel like we love to use the muscles whole for various reasons. If your family eats nothing but grind, hack away. It does not matter. Just make sure, again, you're getting all the nasty bits out.
Get the gland
out.
Don't. Get that guy out.
You really don't want those ground up. Yeah. You do not want those ground up. You will regret all of that decision.
Minimize the silver skin. Minimize the fat that's on there. Take all that out. Chris, you mentioned taking fat out.
Can't handle silver skin. So just make sure you're trimming all that off.
So you mentioned fat earlier. I want to kind of come back to that. Why is deer fat bad? Where I feel like we always hear about on beef, beef fat is good. Beef fat's where the flavor's at, right? Kobe beef is literally riddled with it.
Yes.
But why is that not the case with deer?
I mean, it's bad is relative. There's a lot of people out there that love venison fat. I'm on the fence. I don't think I hate the taste of venison fat, but what I really don't like is its melting point. So venison fat is going to solidify at a much higher temperature than beef fat. And what that translates to is in your mouth. It will literally solidify in your mouth and kind of coat your tongue and the top of your mouth with this really waxy, kind of just nasty feeling that I really can't stand. And if you're not used to wild game, blood and fat, that's where all the flavor is stored. And in wild game, that's not necessarily, that's where is it good or not, air quotes. It's a wild flavor that a lot of people just aren't used to. So
no, it's definitely not a bad thing. In fact, there's so many uses for deer fat. Tallow is a huge candles, soap. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that it can be used for. It's a phenomenal product. However, it's just not one that provides a whole lot of flavor in the kitchen. So it's typically one that we try to remove.
Try it. See if you like it. You might. You might be all about it, and that's awesome. I love that.
But I also think it's one of those things to note too. When you get down to it, you're going to get down to one of my favorite cuts in that lower section there that we'll get to. But it's also one that tends to put out a lot of that feeling in your mouth. And if you've never had that before, it might be like, I don't know what's going on here. Why does this taste the way that it tastes? And that is because the fat that's involved with deer is just, again, that melting point. Sometimes can add a little coating to your mouth.
Yeah, if you've had some bad experiences with wild game, take that into consideration. Maybe was there too much fat? try it again without the fat and see if you like it better.
Yeah.
We end here. We got two cuts.
Yes, what do you got?
Talked about. Yeah.
Yes. You got
this one's much easier.
Yes.
So let's start with this guy. One of my favorites. What are we looking at here?
So we got the what I would call the sirloin tip, which is like the big football piece that comes off there. Yeah, the football. The sirloin tip, again, great roast piece. It's also a great corned piece, so it would be great for what, pastrami, Chris? Could you make pastrami?
Yeah. You could corn it. Yeah. You could do pastrami. Awesome. It's going to take about a week to cure, at least, I would say.
It's so thick.
Turn that into pastrami. That you will not be disappointed with that. Actually, that might be what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal roast. It is one of those, if you want to do the good old, you want to feel good about, carrots, potatoes, onion, celery, carrot, that whole just a pot roasty type of thing. That one right there will not
disappoint. Put that guy in the slow cooker, brown it up, put it in the slow cooker. Yep. Yes.
Man, oh man, it's an easy one to do. Great meal prep for the wintertime for sure.
Yes. So this one here, I'm drawing a blank on what this actually is, to be honest.
It might be part and I was trying to watch where he pulled it out. I believe that's the top sirloin that you pulled out, because it's around the football. So I believe that's the part of it that you had there, or the. It
definitely came off way before the football, but.
Yeah, but I think it came off of the flap of it, which still is the top sirloin. So
it's definitely exterior because it's got a lot of that oxidation going on.
Yeah, so it's on the outside. It is on the outside, so that I believe is your top sirloin.
Cool. Let's do it.
Again, another piece that is phenomenal use for steaks. Great chucking it up into cubes, and if you want stew meats or making a beef stew or having if you like big chunks in your chili. That is a phenomenal piece for that.
Chili.
People do make jerky out of it, or what's the other one? It starts with a bouillon or something like that. That's like little chunk and chip tips of it. But another great cut of meat. A lot of versatility there. Or again, another piece that I typically will just cube up and throw it in the grind bowl.
I think that's small enough. Yeah, that would make an awesome steak.
Yes.
To me, that's like a meal and a half, maybe, there. But again, for the family, it's probably going to be grind.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
So we got a couple different cuts going on in this little section here.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just trying to use my fingers to start separating them. All the muscles, they want to stay together. They're all super interconnected. But yeah, you just get your finger in there, and like I said, as cold as this is, you can honestly just rip it apart mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just get your fingers in there, just start pulling.
And this piece, if you saw where he took it off, is off the inside of the leg there, which is typically why it's called the inside.
So that came from here-ish, and this came from here-ish.
Yep.
So
that top one's that bottom sirloin, and the other one's the inside round. That large chunk is the inside round. And again, another piece that a lot of versatility. You'll see a lot of the cool things to do with this. And one of the things too, when we talk about what you want to do with this, I find, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about this more when we get to some of the tips towards the end too, Chris, but I want to start talking about it now because I think this is the point that when you're butchering, at least this is my opinion, this is when I have all the ideas of what I'm going to do with this.
Yep.
All the ideas of what I'm going to do with this. You put this thing in individual.
Doing all this. Sometimes I'm not really.
Right. So you get to a point where you're doing all this stuff, and it's one of the things where and you have a tip and trick that we're going to talk about here, but I don't spoilers. I kind of wanted you to bring it up now because I feel like this is why it's important.
You're talking about Chef Holly, right?
Yeah, Chef Holly. When she's talked about this as well. When you go to put this in the freezer, the problem that I have is that 8 months from now, when I pull that chunk out of the freezer, I'm no longer being creative about what it is I want to do. I just have meal prep I got to figure out. So go ahead and Chris.
It also depends on how you butcher. Yeah. So how well did you take care of the meat? How much of this needs trimmed off? Like Andy said, 8 months later, it doesn't necessarily look like this. It's not going to look like that bearded butcher's video. So when you pull it out of the freezer, if you don't mark it with either the name of the cut or this tip Andy's about to drop, sometimes you forget what it is. Right.
So Chef always told us, hey, when you put it in the bag and you freeze that bag, go ahead and just write on the outside of the bag. Not only maybe you can put what it is, so if you happen to remember that this, hey, I'm looking at the inside round, but if you had this idea that I wanted to use this specifically for, you know, a steak recipe that you have, like write that on the outside, that this is great for steaks. This is like, so you could write down, you know, a steak recipe or a pot roast, or you could have this
literally
like,
write the name of the
literally
recipe.
write the name of the recipe down on the actual frozen package, so that 8 months from now, when you go to the freezer, you pull that out, you're not having to think about maybe what this piece should be.
Yep. And to be honest, when I do all my meat, when I do all my vac sealing, so I'm a big vac sealer. I've got the Anova vac sealer sitting right here. I love Anova. Link below, affiliate.
Yes.
Big fan. I love the vac sealing because compared to like a saran wrap, compared to just flat out butcher paper, like it's really going to suck all that air out. And again, air is the enemy. You do not want air touching your meat. It's going to discolor. It's going to get gross. It's going to oxidize. So again, a really good vac seal, and take care of that vac seal for those really precious cuts. Sometimes I'll vac seal it, and then I'll put the vac bag in butcher paper just to really add that extra protection. The main game is just getting rid of that oxygen.
When you put these in the freezer, Chris, how long will a piece of meat last?
Ooh, good question there. I do not know. I have pulled out cuts that are like 5 years old, and assuming the seal did not break, like they're still great. So as long as that oxygen is not getting to it, I would not hesitate to eat something. Like it might be a little off just from, it's still going to be aging in the fridge. It's cold enough, it's going to be a lot slower of an age. But again, assuming like it hasn't warmed up, it hasn't thawed out at all, perfectly fine. It's not going to hurt you at all.
Yeah. No, this is the thing. Like I think some people maybe who don't hunt don't understand. If you're the type of person who goes to the market every week to get the meat for that next week, that's great. And I mean it's a great way to live. And there's definitely no downside to this. However, if you're here in Texas, it's very common for people to buy half a steer or a quarter steer, or even a whole cow. They'll send it to the butcher. And that'll be the meat that the family will eat on for a year or even two. So it goes back to like, air is your enemy. If you have it protected, if that seal stays, you'd be surprised at how long a piece of meat will last, because it does slow down the process quite a bit there. So I mean this is why hunters hunt. They hunt during hunting season once a year, and then that's what feeds their family for that entire year. I know that both Chris and I subscribe to our goal is 1 year, right? We try to empty the freezer. We try to take what we need, and then once we have what we need, the goal is to have it all gone by hunting season the next year. So it is one of those things where if you're used to buying meat and eating it within 3 days of purchasing because it's in your refrigerator, this is a little different when you freeze it.
Yeah.
So Chris, it looks like you're hitting a kind of an odd spot here, and again, it gets a little awkward when you're trying to break this piece loose here. What are you working on?
This is, if I'm not mistaken, your favorite cut. Right?
It is. Yes, we're getting to one of my faves.
Yes. So we talked about this guy earlier on. Yes, I could be using that right now to saw this apart. I'd like to separate it just by the knuckle or by the joints here. It introduces less. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but when you use the bone saw,
fragments,
when you use the bone saw, you're sawing bone off, so it's going to leave a bunch of bone dust, which isn't the most fun to chew on. It's really hard to get cleaned up, and it just introduces some sharper edges that the vac bags really don't like. So by digging in here with a knife that you don't care as much about, you can really get in these weird joints, and I'll show you here in a sec why it's kind of awkward and tough here. To do it the long, slow way. It's a weird looking knuckle. But yeah, it's going to be a lot smoother, so the vac bag's going to like it. It's going to taste a lot better, because there's less bone fragments. But it's not the easiest thing to do here.
Especially and again, as we mentioned beforehand, Chris has had this piece freezing or hanging in the refrigerator.
Not freezing,
not freezing.
It froze a little bit, but not intentionally.
It froze a little bit because it got cold in there, but it's very, very cold, and it's been aging. So it's a little bit, this thing might be a little bit more difficult. And also this goes back to when you watch the Bearded Butcher do this and they pop that thing out in 2 seconds. That's because
so fast.
They do 18 to 25 plus of these things a day when they're popping these things loose.
And it's, to be honest, it's a little awkward. Andy and I talked about this earlier. A lot of times I'll take this off. So again, there's 2 little cuts here. Andy, you said earlier you like to keep this chunk on.
If I can get it to break loose with it turned on, great. I sometimes will quit and I'll cut it loose, and then I'll just put the calf, or what you're looking at, what would be like the calf muscle of the deer. I'll put that in along with my shank recipes. But the shank recipes in general tend to, if you don't have that piece on there with it, it ends up being a very small piece of meat. But that bad boy right there, if you can leave that tendon in place, if you can leave it like that, man, oh man, in my opinion, my shank recipes taste a hell of a lot better when I have more and more of that meat on there. And that extra tendon there, you can cut that loose. It just gets a little wonky if you do. But I'll tell you what, the broth that comes from putting that venison bone in along with the meat, oh my goodness, it is life changing.
Yeah, we'll see. The reason I like to separate them typically is because all this collagen, all this silver skin, it's going to break down. Like Andy said, it's going to be awesome flavor. The collagen, not the fat. So this is the good white stuff. I might try and clean up some of this, some of the fatty bits up here in the knuckle. But the silver skin, the tendons, that's the good white. The bone, obviously, that's going to be a good white. So don't necessarily need to take all of this off if you're doing the low, slow, long cook. Try and do a steak out of this, you will regret it. So you're going to want in the crock pot, in the Dutch oven, for hours and hours and hours. But you're going to want to really tie that really well. I probably wouldn't do ossobuco out of this because that's crazy right there. Yeah. But that's going to be really hard to maintain into one solid chunk, because once all that silver skin's gone, all those connective tissues, once that melts down, it's just going to fall apart.
Yes.
Which is glorious.
And that's why it's kind of the goal. It's the goal of the shank.
That is the goal.
One of my very favorite shank recipes that has nothing to do with any of the books that I read. It's just one I do when I had actually we did this a couple weeks ago here at our house. I had a couple shanks. I was going to do one of my recipes, and honestly, just kind of ran out of time. I needed to do something that could go overnight. And I went, I don't get a lot of pulled pork, as we've talked about before on the show. Yeah. Unfortunately, I like pork, but pork doesn't like me. But I had a hankering for something like pulled meat, that sort of pulled porky type of thing. So I went ahead and just filled the crock pot. Actually, my son Austin was visiting, and he left a couple apple cider hard ciders in here, so in the fridge. So I used one of those, cut up a full onion. So it's onion, an apple, a full hard cider. I put a little apple cider vinegar in there, made a nice little base, some Worcestershire sauce, some salt, pepper, and just kind of made a nice little brothy type of piece. I seared those shanks, popped those bad boys in the slow cooker, put it on, and then let it roll overnight. I woke up the next morning and that bone just pulled right out of it, and again just beautifully shredded meat in there with that barbecue saucy type of flavor through there. I threw some sweet baby rays on top of it, kind of mixed it all in, and oh my goodness, it was phenomenal, sloppy Joe type of pulled barbecue. So yeah. Well,
speaking of bones,
let's talk about it. Yes.
I haven't heard him today, but you got a little friend that loves.
Yes, so Kyle here would love to have his hands on that thing. So bones. So one of the things dogs. So people talk about can you give your dog a bone? Dogs eat bones. That's a thing that they do. The thing you got to be careful about is giving a dog a cooked bone. That's where you can get a little dangerous, because the cooked bones will fragment and break, and then potentially cause injury. But that right there, that bad boy right there, we try to clean as much as some of it off, but you want to leave some of the meat on there. It's good for them, especially as Chris mentioned. This came out that thing is still probably rock hard. Right, it's basically frozen still. That meat hasn't had a chance to grow a lot of bacteria. You hand that to a dog, he'll have it picked clean in the first 15 minutes of having it. And then they've got a phenomenal dog toy that is great for their teeth. It's great for their bodies. The collagen that comes off of that too is great for their stomachs and their immune system and all the other things, and great for their coat and their hair. It's a phenomenal true dog treat. There is that giant femur. Again, if Kyle were at your house right now, that would be the first thing he'd be after.
I do not have a dog, so I'm going to roast that, and I'm going to make some stock.
Correct. It's also another great way of handling it. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Well, that is the rear hind quarter. Back here, we got the front.
Yes.
So So we are more than halfway done here.
Yeah.
Moving on to the front. And Andy, what do you like to do here with some of the front meats?
Yeah, so this is again one of those guys that, like in my household, because we eat so much grind. Like my goal for most of this is to get it off and put it in the grind. However, I know Chris, you have some fun plans for a piece here that I typically almost exclusively cut up for grind. The cool thing about the front shoulder too is that it's unlike the rear that's attached by like a ball and socket type of setup. The front arm is kind of free floating. So it's not actually, once he takes it off, it's a kind of a weird thing. When you take it off, it comes right off the carcass. But what it does leave is this awesome piece of meat here. And again, another fun thing about the fronts, just like the backs, there's some phenomenal shanks. So the shank right there is another big part of it that I put all 4 of the shanks typically from one deer together, and that becomes one big shank roast later on. So Chris is going to do a good job here cleaning off again, just like the front, just like the back. He's going to clean off a bunch of that white stuff. The white stuff is not good in this scenario. But talk a little bit about kind of what that shoulder blade and what you're planning on doing with that.
Yeah. So actually thought and planned a little bit on this guy, and I'm going to try and keep as much of this intact as I can. And I'm just going to do one giant blade roast out of I'm going to keep the shank. That's going to be its own thing. But yeah, the rest of this, my goal is just to do one large whole muscle roast. And it sounds awesome.
Yes.
I've never tried it, but here we are.
Yeah, well, I've heard about this. Actually, I just saw, when you started telling me about this, I had just seen somebody talking about online and talking about a blade roast, doing the same thing you're talking about, doing off of a smoker first and low and slow, getting that thing good, nice and get a lot of smoke on it. And then it's supposed to be just like pick off the bone, just delicious. So I'm excited to see the pictures from it.
Yeah, all the recipes I've seen are predominantly crock pot, Dutch oven. It's going to be a little bit bigger for the crock pots I have, but I love smoke, man. So I gotta throw it on the smoker and just give it a little kiss with that smoke. Probably a couple hours on there.
I wonder too, Chris, if you could even either smoke it first, or maybe even sous vide it with your Anova. I think you have it, but I have the big pot, the big guy there.
Yeah.
Bag that bad boy up. Maybe put that thing in there, let it get nice and broke down, and then maybe finish it on the smoker. Even would be another great way of doing it.
That might fit in the pot. I don't know. That's a good.
Do you have the big guy? Do you have the big
I think I do. Yeah. Get it out. I don't know if it's that big though.
I don't know, man. Well, it's hard to tell sizes. From right here, it'll fit.
Yes. So also we have some trauma here. So I believe this is the shoulder that got hit. So a little bit of hair here, a little bit of blood shock. Yeah. So chunk.
So we talked about this earlier. Like if it looks like something you wouldn't eat raw, that's probably an example to take it out. And that goes with the white as well as with the too dark of red. So I can even see it from here, like that. That red that's bloodshot. You don't want that in your grind. You don't want that in your shoulder roast. That will give it a very what you think blood tastes like. That's what it will taste
gamey, like. The quote unquote game. That's where that's coming from. Yep.
Yes.
That's what's going to give you that. So right now I'm just trying to trim up some of these loose ends. But I don't want to trim too much because here I'm not as worried, I think, about some of the internal fat. So there's going to be a lot going on inside the muscles that typically, when Andy and I, if I wasn't doing a blade roast out of this, I would be grinding everything but the shank here in the front. That's what my family eats. That's what we're going to do. But not today. Yeah. And again, so typically I would be working out cutting out all that internal muscle when I cut the grind. But today, I'm hoping that's where sitting on the smoker, that low, slow, long smoke, I'm hoping a lot of this internal muscle or the internal fat is just going to render and melt away. Yeah. So that's half the goal with the smoker.
Yeah. And with the front roast, the nice thing is you have to be a little careful. You don't have to be as careful with that. We talked about that gross lymph node that's in the middle of literally the middle of the rear roast or the rear hindquarter there. There is not one in the front arm of the deer. There is a lymph node nearby. Right? I went and did some further research on this to make sure I knew what I was talking about. And it
might be around this.
It's up. Yeah, correct. It's up by the shoulder blade, up at the top. Typically, when you remove it from Yeah, when you remove it from the actual carcass, that's typically trimmed off, but it's in that white chunky section.
And it might be located around here.
Yes.
Sometimes you pull this off like in the field when you're butchering.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes it gets left. Yeah.
But again, white, chunky, blobby stuff, that's getting chopped off.
If it looks white and gross, don't eat it.
Yep, don't eat it. So that's coming off. I'm going to grind what I can from here. Yeah, this white stuff's gone. It's shaping up.
So while you're doing that though, Chris, like let's talk a little bit like what we're talking about. So today we're cutting up, essentially like the quarters, the limbs, if you will, of an animal. But there's meat on the rest of the animal too, right, Chris? Like let's talk a little bit about the parts that we're not going to see today. Where a lot of the weight is at. I mean, this guy that you're cutting up here was a heavy dude. So, and I think like you might have one of the world records of neck roast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely world record for me. Dude, actually right there. Yeah, I found the gland.
There it is.
I cut it. Yep. That's not good.
Wash your knife.
Yeah, there's the other half. Yep. Yes, we found the gland. Yep, it's in one of those off bits.
Yep.
There she is.
I believe that part wasn't on the other piece that we looked at there. So this is
So let's give this little guy a wash. So luckily I've only been trimming off fat, so I'm not too worried. Doesn't smell bad, so we're good.
Yeah, if you wipe it off, it's good. Again, it'll be fine.
If you see something like that, hopefully we can see it here in the cameras.
That
is icky. Yeah, no, that's all. I'm not going to worry about that anymore. So Luckily, a lot of that's just dried from touching the air. I was going to try and, there's a good chunk of meat in here, but because that gland got cut, like all of this is probably weird now. So it kills me, but I just don't want off weird grinds.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, like if you're a grizzly man of a man and you want to eat that stuff, it's not going to hurt you necessarily.
Not going to kill you.
Like the flavor. So back to this neck roast. There's other parts of the meat. So let's talk a little bit about those other pieces there.
Yeah. So when you're processing this initially, you field dress it, you do all that stuff, you hang it, you sometimes you just put it on a table, do what you can. You're going to cut off the back straps. You're going to cut out the inner loins, which are basically like opposite the back strap, inside the rib cage there. And then I love to keep the neck. And I know that is a part of the meat or a part of the deer that, if you're going to take your big buck to get mounted, unfortunately, you're probably going to lose that neck because you need it for the taxidermy. I really don't shoot big bucks outside of this guy. My household's not the biggest on mounts, so I just did a Euro mount on this guy. But his neck, man, I pulled that off, weighed it. It was too big for my scale, so I've got this little scale here. Definitely, I would consider the scale part of our equipment today, only because I like to. I'm not a huge facts guy, but I like to know what the yield is. So I like to weigh everything I get and tally up. Hey, what did this deer give me? What did that deer give me? So I weighed his neck. It maxed out my scale. I had to chop it up. And I think I got 21 pounds out of the neck.
Jeez.
Which to me is just bonkers.
Yeah, that is
bonkers. A lot of neck bonkers. Meat.
Yeah, just if you think about it too, think about a good 8-ounce steak. Would be would destroy you, fill you up. Chris had 3 of those bad boys worth of meat on there, and the neck roast is another one of my favorite ones that oftentimes gets left in the field. Like people don't necessarily like to deal with it, don't like to cook it, but it's another phenomenal piece that if you do low and slow and let it pick it off the bone, I'll tell you what, man, it makes.
Well, the recipe you talked about earlier. Yeah, doing some tacos. Yep.
Yeah,
100%. That's where you're gonna get it.
Yeah, phenomenal tacos, or even like they said, that barbecue roast that I kind of talked about, that low and slow in a crock pot. Man, and again, from a guy who doesn't get any pulled pork anymore, this is kind of the closest way I can do that, and I love doing that with a neck roast.
Yes.
All right, so back to what we're working on here. It's looking a lot cleaner here. We're looking at a lot more meat now.
So right now I'm seeing a lot of hair. And I thought I was pretty diligent in the field, taking care of that initially. It's inevitable. You're taking off hides, you're going to get hair. And what I like to do is just grab a paper towel and just pluck it off. And I know a lot of guys like to get their torch and just burn all the hair off. It is a lot easier, not going to lie, but I personally
burnt hair.
I personally hate the smell of burnt hair, and I don't necessarily want that on my meat. And I realize, yes, we are trimming a lot of that superficial layer off. Probably won't transfer, but I just don't like the idea. So personally, I don't like the torch. That's not me.
Yeah.
You do you.
Yeah. The other thing that I've done in the past that's worked really, lint rollers work.
I've seen lint rollers
You take packing tape and just wrap it. You can wrap it around your hand and you can like stick it to it and pull as much of it off. Just, it's one of those things where you just want to minimize as much of that. I will also say the other thing to do, if and when you do this in your own kitchen, make sure you clean out your sink. Don't let your wife come in and see a bunch of hair, or her husband come in and see a bunch of hair in the sink. It is I have a fun story about my pigs. Butchering an entire
story.
No, I wouldn't say it was fun for me. We cleaned out a bunch of. We had a really successful hog hunt. Cleaning up a bunch of hog meat, and I was very proud of myself that we got it all cleaned up before my buddy's wife got home at his house, and I forgot the hair that was all in the sink, and she came in and saw that, and she was not happy. So.
No.
Shout out to Sam. Sorry about your sink. It's clean.
Sorry. Yes. All right. So right now, I'm working on this joint, and this joint's a little bit more awkward than the last one, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's got a little weird top-notch thing to it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like a weird cap thing on it. But
we'll show you. It's funky.
Yeah. It is one of those that definitely differentiates the front.
So what's going on? Yeah, the joint is here, like the ball joint's right here, but the protuberance goes out to here, so you kind of have to go up and down. So we're going to chop way down into here eventually.
Yes.
But yeah, again, same as before. I could just bone saw right through there. It'd be faster, it'd be easier. But I'm not going to eat this immediately, so again, the vac bags don't like sharp things.
No.
So there's that. And here's where the knives you don't care as much about come into real handy.
Yeah.
Because really, I'm just trying to find that bone.
I've got that third knife that's a little bit thicker of a blade, so it's a little sturdier. So I pop that guy inside of that thing and just kind of turn it, and it usually pops it loose. You still got to cut all the connective tissue across, out from it. So again, I go back to I then switch over to my orange handled, not so fancy knife, but great knife from Outdoor Edge. Just one that I'm okay with sharpening myself and fixing myself.
Great.
And then I'll use that to finish out all the tendons and everything to separate these out. But again, this is one of those pieces that often gets either misused or just thrown away. Or people may cut the meat off. Yeah,
which stinks. Stinks for them. So, and here's a good tip. Yeah, Andy, why do dull knives, why are they dangerous?
Yeah, so typically you're more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than with a sharp knife, because typically what happens when a knife slips, it slips because it's not cutting. It's not because it doesn't slip because it's cutting, it slips because it's not cutting. And then that not cutting dull knife is still sharp enough to cut you, sliding into your finger and then causing that problem. So this is one of those things, like we saw it earlier just a little bit ago. Chris grabbed his knife sharpener there and just hit it a couple times.
Yeah.
And it's just a good thing to do,
little quick sharpener comes free with all the outdoor kits. Love it. Outdoor Edge kits.
Yeah.
Definitely honing rod. I would keep this in your kit. This doesn't necessarily make it sharper, but it does kind of take a weird blade that got bent. You nicked a bone maybe. So just not over your meat. You're shaving little bits of meat. So over the trash can, over the side. I always like to wipe it down too. Just try and get all those metal fragments off. Not going to kill you, but it's not going to be fun to pass if you get a big one.
Yes.
So there's some of that. Awesome shank there. This one I would ossobuco. Tie that up really good. Chop it. Yeah, it's going to clean up real well.
That's a big one right there. Yep.
Yes. So this right here, I'm going to try and keep intact as is. So this is the blade roast. I think it's more than a blade roast. I think the blade roast is just the shoulder blade.
Just that top. Yeah, you could keep cleaning.
Got the shoulder blade, and then there's another bone right here.
Correct.
So, and if you are going to chop this up, there is a weird ridge in that bone, so don't think you can just fillet all the meat straight off this. And I want to say it's right on the outside.
Right
so
there.
probably right here.
Yeah, that
So
big
again,
white
this
line.
is the shoulder blade, and then there's a bone ridge right here. So you can just put your knife straight down and then go out, and just you fillet it like you fillet a fish, or like you're filleting some silver skin.
Yeah. It's a great way to like pull off the grind. So again, if you struggle with the front quarter on that, that's what I typically do is I'll run my blade down that big little white line just to expose that ridge, and then I'll find one side of it and just scoop out from underneath it and pull all that beautiful meat out. You can then flip that back over and then do the same thing again on the other side of it, and then that'll pull the silver skin off the front. What was the front of it?
Sure.
And man, oh man, it's a quick way of getting it out of there. But I'm excited to see the video and the photos of this blade roast that's about to happen.
It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be fun. A lot of meat. So, I think we said this earlier. 100%. Nothing wrong with grinding everything.
Yes.
The backstrap, grind it. It's gonna be a phenomenal burger. Do not hesitate to grind everything. You do not need to do all of this.
Yes.
Cook, process how your family eats.
Yes, correct. Whatever you'll actually eat of it, because what you don't want to do is have this stuff sit in the freezer and then not do something with it. Now, I will say too, what's cool about this too, if you had change of heart, that giant chunk there, if Chris gets down to it and needs grind and doesn't have it, you can pull that bad boy out, cube her up, and throw it through a grinder, and you have yourself some beautiful ground meat later. So there's also no reason not to do that. If you're going to take the time to start separating muscle groups out and have it that way, you can also choose to grind it again later.
I love you just said that. Yep. Keeping it whole, you can always change your mind later on.
Yeah.
If you hack it up, if you butcher it like you're going to grind it, you're pretty much stuck with grinding it.
Yeah, you're grinding it then.
We're ultimately
you're not quite sure what you're going to do. And I have some buddies who don't have, like, so Chris was actually I was always using his grinder for my meat for the first couple seasons of my hunting. I have my own now. So I'm a big fan of meats, and I have the 1.5 horse one.
Meat your maker. I'm a huge fan as well.
The 1.5 double grinder. The dual grind.
You got the dual,
and I'm a big fan.
How that performs.
So far so good. I'm a big fan of it. I think it did it really well. But if you're not sure, again, this is another great way to keep the muscle groups whole. That way you can do it. And if you got a buddy who can help you out, great. If you end up not having one, well, now at least you have some roast to use.
Sir. Well, real fast, I just want to touch on getting your meat ready for the grinder. I'm glad we just talked about that. Like I think I mentioned this earlier, no matter how big and beefy and bad your grinder is, silver skin is tough. So it will clog your grinder up, and it will slow down the process. You will have to take it apart and fix it. And you don't want to do that in the middle of your sausage making session or your grinding session, whatever you're doing. So as much of this as you can take off from your grinder or from your grind pile, it will save you so much headache later on.
Yes. Other tips too. Super cold.
Yes.
Keep it cold. I got this tip from Chris a while. Necessarily.
When you grind it.
When you grind it, you want it to be super cold. As far as to even put the grinder parts in the freezer, freeze those too. Is another huge tip too, to keep that cold. That'll help keep something cutting through it. But it's doing a little bit of this work now. Now, Chris, you mentioned this earlier. There are some parts of it that on those jarred chunks from the rear quarter that you're not going to clean up like you are this piece right here. You're doing this because it's going in the grind. So, the piece you're doing right now is for the grind, but those giant chunks that you're planning, you have other plans for from the rear quarter, you left a lot of that silver skin on. Yes, let's talk about why.
Yeah. So, the cuts that I'm throwing in vac bags and saving for later. Yeah. This guy, for example, he's stuck. Let's get this one here. Yeah, so my steak. Yeah. So, a lot of, and it's starting to thaw here, so I got to speed up here and get him back in the fridge. It's got a lot of that oxidized, it touched the air, so a lot of that's going to get trimmed off. All this silver skin is going to be tough and nasty. You don't want to eat that. Definitely a lot of silver skin right there. That is going to help protect it in the freezer. So we're already going to trim it off, and in the instance that your vac bag does break, seal, whatever, it gets old, since we're already chopping that off, I'm not really afraid that it's going to get freezer burn. So if any part of the steak is going to get freezer burn, I want it to be the part that I'm already chopping off.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
long way to say that answer there, but
yeah, super smart. Again, keep in mind, air's the enemy. So if you can leave some of that stuff on, you're obviously going to cut it out before you prep it. Now, if this is something if you're going to give this to a friend, maybe take the time to either thaw that and clean it up for them if you have already frozen it. But if you know that you're prepping a piece of meat that you're going to give to somebody, do them a favor. They may not know how much to take off of that, and this is where people end up coming up with this feeling that like they don't like wild game because it's gamey. It may just be that they cooked a piece that wasn't fully processed yet. They hadn't taken all that piece of the silver skin off, that sort of thing, and didn't cook up right.
If I'm giving it to Andy, I'm giving it just like I would pack it myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Andy said, if I'm giving it to a friend who's never had wild game, I'm going to do everything in my power to make it as easy for them as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, when Chris was, it's Chris's fault that I am into hunting, so I blame all of the expenses on him.
I'll accept that.
But he actually gave me some pieces of backstrap to cook up, and they were beautifully clean, beautifully red. I didn't have to do anything. Now it's one of those things. Now when I see that piece of meat, I'm like, there's a little bit of work that went into what he gave me.
Little love.
Love.
So Andy, when you're prepping meat for the grinder, how crazy are you going? Like getting?
Yeah, so I will say, this is again Chris playing a little dumb. He's seen I am a little psycho about taking as much of it off. Now I will say, in the last 2 years, the deer that I just finished processing, and then the one last year, is that I've gotten a little bit more open to keeping some on there. Mainly because I've gotten used to the flavors profile of it a little more, so I'm not as afraid of it as I was in years early on. But here's the thing, guys. The cleaner you get it, the better it's going to taste. If you're really good with a knife, it's awesome because you can get every little bit of red into the red bucket and all the white out of it. But if you're bad with a knife, it's a really good way to lose a lot of meat yield too.
It's grueling. So, it's definitely a time suck. Yep.
It does. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah. To me, this is absolutely perfect. I wouldn't say it's above and beyond, but 100%. I'm not too worried about a little bit here and there.
I'd throw that thing on a skillet right now. But that's really well done. But you'll see if you look inside of that grind bowl, there's some pieces there that have a little bit of love on
this isn't all done. It needs some work.
But again, as we mentioned, it won't kill you. It's just one of those things where it'll just taste a hell of a lot better if you don't have it. So clean it up, but take your time with it. If you're in a rush, this is not something you want to do if you've got to be somewhere in 20 minutes.
Exactly.
This is a process you want to do when you can dedicate some time to it.
Don't have too many adult beverages either.
Yeah, you'll end up either throwing away a lot of really good meat, or maybe getting frustrated and just throwing in the towel, and then you'll end up with a bunch of silver skin through your grinder.
Yep. So real quick, before we wrap up, I don't know what time we're at here.
We're getting there, yeah.
We're getting to the end of the process here, which is good. So, get as much of that silver skin off as possible. Here is where you're going to want just a really flexible knife. Yes. And if you're a fisher person, you've already done this, but we're essentially filleting a fish. Mm-hmm. So, right here, this isn't the best chunk. This is going to be sloppy. But it's right here. The back, it's got that oxidation. It's got all that white silver skin. The other side looks all right, but it's still got some silver skin there. So basically what I'm going to do is just find where that silver skin starts, like a good healthy chunk of it. The darker, the better. I'm going to flip it over so the silver skin is touching the cutting board. And I'm just going to cut myself a little handhold, not all the way through. And then you're just going to take your knife almost flat with the cutting board. You're going to press so it bends and just kind of shave all that off like so. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it does come off in a good healthy chunk, depending on what your handhold looks like. Flip it around, cut that handhold off. That's grind, that's trash. And it did all right. We missed a little chunk here, but that's all right. Sometimes you can come at it from this angle, but here's where you waste a lot of meat doing it this way.
This is where you can get into some wasteful meat. And, and honestly, it's one of those things where, if this is not your first deer, if you've eaten deer for years and this is your first time processing your own deer, chances are you've gotten used to the flavor profile of having some of this off. And just by doing what Chris is doing here, it's going to be more than plenty to be able to make it, a grindable meat.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I have never taken a deer to a processor outside of once where I had some snack sticks made, but I did all of this, and I just took my grind bucket and said, make me snack sticks. But I would say, in my mind, this is why you don't necessarily get what you think you should get from the butcher all the time. Mm-hmm. So you take in your big old deer, it's got all the bones, it's got this, it's got that. You're not really familiar with how much yield you get of edible meat from the not edible portions. But I would say a lot of like butchers, especially this time of year, it's max hunting season, they're doing a ton of these. They're not gonna spend time cutting up, like what is this? Like 2 ounces of meat? Like they're not gonna waste their time trimming up that just so you can get like one extra meatball.
Cube that bad boy up and throw it in your grind pile.
Either they're gonna leave all that skin on there or they're just gonna chuck it because one meatball is not worth it to them.
Right.
But today,
it's not their meatball, but this is your meatball.
Yes. I got that from Jeremiah Dowdy from Field to Plate. So my personal Instagram is from Field to Table. I had no idea Jeremiah existed when a friend recommended that name. But yeah, Jeremiah from Field to Plate is a phenomenal outdoor chef, wild game chef. And yeah, his big thing is it's one more meatball. So take your time. Get everything you possibly can. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be one more meatball, it's worth it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jeremiah. I appreciate that hot tip. So for me, that's worth it. Yeah, we got a little bit here, but I think my grinder can handle that. Chop it in half. Yeah, we're good to go. And to the fat, real quick, I just want to touch on fat here before we wrap it up. So this guy right here, it's got some fat going on. If it's crazy hard to chop off, if you're getting tired at the end of the day, like if it's got just a little bit of fat, I'm not gonna worry too hard. I don't know if we talked about like the max yield I'm gonna get from this buck, but the back straps, the neck, all the trimmings from the initial field dressing process, that was about 50 pounds of meat, which is crazy. And I weighed each of the hind quarters, and those are each about 20, 25 pounds. So like I'm gonna get like almost 100 pounds of meat, probably just over 100 pounds of meat from this guy, which is awesome. And a lot of that 100 pounds is gonna stay whole. But I would say a good like 20 or 30 pounds is gonna be grind. So in that 20 or 30 pounds, like if I've got just a little chunk of fat, it's gonna blend in. It's not really going to impact.
It's going to cook away. So you're going to cook it down. Like you're cooking.
Exactly.
You're thinking about how you brown meat. And if you're not browning meat properly, please go back and find our browning meat episode,
an early episode,
and watch that. That'll give you some tips and tricks there. Yep. Chances are, if you haven't watched that and you're not familiar with the show, I would be willing to bet you're browning your meat wrong. You're probably steaming your meat more than anything else. But a lot of that good stuff's gonna cook off and cook away. So again, it's not one of those things.
Yeah. The caveat to what I just said there, leaving a little bit here and there is fine, but if every piece you're leaving a little bit here and there, that's probably too much. So take your time. Do a bulk cleaning on 90% of it, and that last little 10%. You can fudge a little bit. So experiment. Find out what works for you, what works for your family.
Well, right on, Chris. So you've hit the high notes. We've got 2 quarters broken down here.
Yes, sir.
Yielding out 100 pounds of meat for this guy. And again, it's one of those things where this was a 200+ pound deer. Chris,
was not
in my
easy
opinion,
to drag out.
does a phenomenal job of maximizing that yield. Again, everything from like keeping those bones to make the broth. Maximizing everything you possibly can from the deer. I know that Chris, your dad, does a lot with the remnants of it, everything from the offal to the skin and the hide and everything that's as well. There's a lot of uses for that, but also, he's got some wildlife in his backyard, right? That he likes to feed.
All the bits. Let's say it's impossible to get every little bit of meat. You don't necessarily need to be this picky. It's not wasteful just because you aren't eating it. There's a lot of wild game out there that loves eating what you don't want to eat. So if you're not a fan of liver, it's okay to leave it out in the woods. Like coyotes are going to get it. Raccoons are going to get it. All this cool stuff. My dad has a red-tailed hawk that lives in his backyard. We love to just put out the bones for them to pick on. So don't beat yourself up if you don't necessarily have time for all this. Yes, we do encourage you to try it. But like me, like I haven't found a great use of liver outside of Neil Brown's sausage recipe that he made for us at that wild game dinner, which I still need to try and duplicate. I leave the livers in the woods a lot. It's just I haven't found a good use for them for me. And don't beat yourself up. But yeah, one of these days I am going to try it. I'm going to save it. So it's on my list of things to do. But just not in a phase of life right now where it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, right on, Chris. Well, we're at like an hour, almost an hour and 20. So it's been a long one, but you've also broken down two large pieces of deer while talking, while not cutting yourself so far. So that's good.
So I haven't cut myself. Yes.
Yes.
Goal. It's always a goal.
So that said, again, I don't think we're doing a recipe on this one, are we?
I don't have a recipe. We talked about a lot of recipes. Get your curry thing. If you guys need help finding cookbooks, we got recommendations. There's a lot of really awesome things out there.
Throw us a DM if you're looking for a cookbook. We're a big fan of Hank Shaw's work. We're a big fan of Steve Ranella and Meat Eater.
Harvesting Nature's got a ton.
Harvesting Nature's got some great stuff too. So there's some really good stuff out there. If you're not super creative on what to do with these things, there's some stuff out there that exists for you to start with. So, but Chris, I'm happy for you, man. Again, congrats again on the buck. Love to see all the meat. I'm excited to see what this blade roast looks like. But no, this has been really fun. And again, I think it's one of those things that's really educational. I think we talked about this when we had the idea of this episode. I think it's super important to people to see and I started the episode with this and I'll end with it. We see these pieces of meat at the butcher shop already prepped, already cut up in these little squares, these little sections of things. It's just really interesting to see where they actually come from on the actual animal. And it's also, I think, so nuts to me as soon as you get them pulled apart, as soon as you get that tri-tip leaned out, it's like, oh, that looks like a tri-tip. Like, I've seen that before at the butcher shop. And that's the thing. It's like, this is, my dad's always said someone no smarter than you does everything in the world that we all know about. So rocket scientists are no smarter than you. They just dedicated themselves to rocket science. So this is one of those things where you try something, you learn something, you get a little bit better at it, and you'll have, I think, a new appreciation for what it takes to make that pretty piece of meat sit there at the butcher shop.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said earlier, if you screw it up, your grind is just going to be that.
Grind it. When in doubt, grind.
It's been awesome. Yeah, I love you mentioned education there, another huge pillar of ours. Again, just do it. Just try it.
Yeah.
But it's been really fun just talking to my boys about where protein comes from. Mm-hmm. So like as soon as I got the buck, I put it in the back of my truck, I just immediately drove it home to show my boys. And like they love wildlife. They love seeing all this stuff. They've not stopped talking about the deer in the back of your truck. Every time they see a deer, they're like, oh, you got one in the back of your truck. And so this whole week, like as I've been breaking this guy down, like I'm trying to talk to them like, hey, like this came from that deer. Like this meatball, this spaghetti, this chili we're eating, like this came from that deer. Yeah. We did all the work. Like we did it from start to finish ourselves. And that's super cool. But again, just really is. A lot of people don't know where their food comes from. So I'm just trying to instill that in my boys. And again, by doing it ourselves, like we see and we're learning where this food comes from. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Andy. Yeah,
man. Super proud of you. This is awesome. This is really cool to see. And hopefully, again, for those of you who have never seen something like this gives you a unique look at it. And from people who actually use every bit of what we're talking about here. All of this, I promise you, all of this will be eaten by Chris and his family. And if not by Chris and his family, it'll be made for friends. Yeah, it'll be made and given away for friends.
Yes.
So, awesome, man. Proud of you.
Great. Thanks, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I got a little bit more work here to do. We're cleaning up some grinds.
You get to clean up now. No, the worst part.
We're signing off.
Bagging that stuff up and cleaning it up.
That's the worst part. Yeah. So we're gonna vac seal. We're gonna freeze it. We're gonna eat later. So
yeah, nice.
Cheers, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, bud. Yep. See ya.